Excuse me, if you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if anybody who's going to offer testimony today, if you'd like to just remain standing, I'll swear everybody in at once for testimony. All right, anybody with you, are they offering any testimony today, or are they just here?
I'm not sure if I need to.
Go ahead and get sworn in. That if you don't need to be sworn in, you'll be sworn. If you don't have to testify, then won't be a problem. Do you all swear from the testimony you give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, thank you. From the agenda, it looks like we have two reductions and continuation of last month's hearing, so I'll cut my introduction short. But for anybody who hasn't been in front of me before, my name is Drew Smith. I am the Code Enforcement Special Magistrate for the City of St. Cloud. My role in these proceedings is to serve as the independent trier of fact. The city will, for each case, the city will present its evidence, testimony, and witnesses. When they are done, if you would like to cross-examine any witnesses, you'll have that opportunity. If you have any evidence or testimony you'd like me to receive, I will hear from the respondent. When I've heard all the evidence and testimony, I will enter an order on what I've heard today. That verbal ruling will be followed by written order in the mail. With that, clerk, you may call. Did you have something?
No, I was just going to suggest the only individuals who are here are for the St. Cloud Hotel case. So if you want to call that one.
Okay, so we don't have either of the reductions here?
Yeah, none of this.
Okay, then we'll jump right into it. That's fine with me.
Case number 2025-960, St. Cloud Hotel LLC owner Dave Fong, registered agent, location of violation 1004 New York Avenue, St. Cloud, Florida.
Good afternoon, Mr. Smith. Dan Manzara, City Attorney.
And you may already be thinking what I'm thinking here, but before we get into anything, where we want to go today, I would like to have an update of where we
Exactly.
left off from, or what has been accomplished since where we left off last month.
Sure, and I have that, and we've put together a short little presentation to basically address those issues. So I'm just going to, see if I can get this thing to work. Okay. So I did put in, as you know, in your order, your prior order, you found that there were two violations that existed on the property, both related to the condition of the main structure on the property, finding there's a dangerous risk of fire collapsing, and also that the structure in its current state is a dangerous structure. And then this is the provision of the order, which I know you're very familiar with. The order included, why isn't this thing moving? Okay, so as part of your order, you provided that there should be an inspection that occurred prior to today's date, or actually prior to February 6th. You also ordered that the respondent make a decision with regard to a certificate of appropriateness, as you recall, as to what direction they wanted to proceed, which was one of the issues that was needed to be resolved before they could get the building permit. And also you asked that the respondent bring to you proof that certain windows have been ordered, as they claimed in the last hearing. They need to do that. And so what has occurred is that on January 26th, the respondent and several members of the city staff, the fire department, code enforcement, building department, were in the building and did do a follow-up inspection. I have some pictures to show you, and the fire chief will discuss those issues that they saw on January 26th. The respondent did submit on February 9th a request to extend the certificate of appropriateness related to the historic preservation issue. I will point out to you that after further review of that, as you might recall, there was some discussion on the size of the windows for the portion of the property that would be the restaurant. The city has re-looked at that issue and looked back at some of the approvals, and essentially the city is okay from the certificate of appropriateness of those windows, the windows that we understand that the respondent wants to install, being part of this extension of certificate of appropriateness. And I hope you're following me on that. So you remember there was
I do. And where I had left it in the order was for them to go ahead and apply for the extension, and then they could deal with those windows in the newest certificate. But it sounds like the city has resolved that issue for them. And
exactly right. So there's no need
for
for them to apply for a new certificate of appropriateness to do those windows. However, we have no information with regard to whether the windows are ordered. And even though they have applied for the extension of the certificate of appropriateness, to date, there has no building permit been issued on it, on this property. So you can see these are just regular pictures. These are the pictures that we showed at the last hearing. And I just wanted to point out, there was some discussion about fencing around the property. There is some fencing in the rear of the property. That's the portion of the building that faces Massachusetts Avenue. However, gosh, why isn't this thing working? Any new batteries? No, there, you can see there's no fencing on the front of the building that
Go
dresses.
back, I didn't get a good look at that picture.
Okay. You can see these were the pictures that were submitted back in, at the last hearing. So there is, all that is scaffolding, and there is some wrought iron or railing in the front, but there is no secure fencing on the front of this building or on the I guess that would be the south side of the building. There is fencing on the north and south. There is fencing on the rear of the building. So, as I just said right there. There's just more pictures of the scaffolding and the wood. These are all the pictures, and this is just to refresh the special magistrate's recollection of the pictures that were showed last. Okay. I just want to go ahead there. Okay, so, as I said, the inspection did occur. And I don't know why this is happening. Where are the rest of the January 26 pictures? Are they in there?
It's what you put on there.
Okay.
The ones from the fire department stuff should be on there.
All right, I apologize for this. This is not. You have a hard copy of that, Jason? Apologize, Mr. Smith.
No problem.
Okay, so here we are. Okay, so at this point, I'd like the fire chief to go through, these are pictures that were taken on the inspection of January 26, which was after the last meeting in which the fire chief was on it. So if Chief Miller could come up and address the pictures that he saw, and go through the pictures and show you what they saw when they were in the interior of the building.
Which button am I hitting?
I guess we're hitting this one, but it doesn't seem to work.
Okay, we'll try it.
Maybe a better.
Good afternoon, Sir Jason Miller, Fire Chief, Cloud Fire Rescue. During the inspection, we took numerous pictures. However, for the brevity of the situation, we condensed them quite down to probably just a handful of maybe 6 or 8 pictures. In total, we took about 300 pictures. This picture depicts the area in front of the restaurant area, which is the 1-story off to the side that does not have fencing around the front of it. There was a past incident that we know of, I don't remember the date exactly, but it was a couple years ago, of a break-in at the location that just shows where the window was broken, and the glass is still there.
Okay, but the windows in the frame, those windows have been replaced
Yes,
since
sir.
the break-in, okay.
Yep. Just showing the housekeeping. The next photo, obviously, this is just showing the frame walls and the floor, that it is wood all the way through the building. Also, you can see the floor joists that are at the kind of the end of the picture there in the hallway. Again, wood frame all the way through the structure, multiple stories of it. This is one of our large concerns as firefighters, right? We're in there where it's dark, it's smoky, we can't see very well. Here we have basically where firefighters are crawling upstairs or crawling downstairs to escape from the fire if it's getting that bad. There's no lower level protection. At a minimum, there should be three boards on there to protect firefighters if they are crawling, so they won't crawl off the side, and it prevents the fall hazard. In addition to that, the materials underneath the stairwells has to be removed. That is plastic. As you know, plastic's highly flammable. This building is not sprinklered. It is not secured when it comes to that kind of aspect. A match could cause significant fire in that building in no time flat. In the next picture, I apologize for my bald head being in it. However, again, this is another picture of the lower stairwell, but also this is the landing where there's no fall prevention at the landing level. So if a firefighter is up there, if it's smoky, he could literally walk right off of that and fall down to the mid-floor landing. That's what that depicts. It should also be noted that what I'm looking at there was the gusset plates. There's numerous gusset plates that are noted to be damaged and pulling out of the wood itself. So we would like a gusset plate reinspection and repair done as needed. Come on. Nope. This is a picture of the elevator shaft. As you can see, they do have 2 boards across this. However, it's still a fall hazard. Realistically, what should be across there is a piece of plywood preventing full access into that area. I believe this is from the second or third floor. You can see that they have scaffolding inside of that area. That's wonderful, but that's not going to stop somebody from falling down. Oops. Again, this is another picture of where there's an open fall hazard. There's no wall built at this location. According to the Mateo there was a remodel that was approved that allowed for the changing of the stairs and the way the landing was done. However, there was never a wall put in place or any kind of fall resistance. You can literally see there the gap there where they could fall all the way through. On the other side of the second frame wall there, you'll see where there's another landing that doesn't have any fall protection for anybody who might be on that landing, where they could fall directly down onto the stairs.
Are you talking about to the right of the frame? Is that where the landing is?
So, does this have a pointer by any chance? Nope. Oh, good point. Okay, so you see the wider board there that I'm kind of pointing at?
Yes,
To the immediate right of that?
yes.
That
Yes.
second frame wall behind there?
Yes.
Is where you could walk off and land onto the
That's what I
stairs?
thought, yes, that's what I thought you were
Yep.
talking about.
And then closer to us in that darkened area that's behind there, kind of narrower, you can see where the penetration goes all the way down to the floor
Yes.
below. This is a picture of the first floor, again, showing that it's primarily wood frame everywhere, unprotected without a sprinkler system. As you can kind of note in this picture, which you'll see better in the following picture, is the slab itself has been trench cut in numerous places. The reason that's of importance is all this rebar is sticking out. If a firefighter is in there in a hostile environment, being the building's under fire and there's smoke conditions, they're going to get snagged, trip, fall. The hose is going to get hung up in this. It's a huge safety hazard, and this goes the full length of the building virtually. There's multiple different cut points kind of leading off of each other. So what we have recommendations as far as what could mitigate that in the future. Obviously, pouring the concrete back would be the best one, but we understand they have plumbing and other things that need to be in there. So we would recommend either, instead of having the rebar folded back or bent, which kind of defeats the purpose of having it in place in the future for pouring that concrete, we'd recommend during construction time until they're ready, they infill that area with dirt. At least that'll prevent the hoses potentially from snagging or our firefighters from getting snagged on that in the event of a fire. Overall, there are some temporary measures to address as far as safety issues. This is a wood frame building built within a block or brick building. It falls under special consideration. The system that is in place currently is a heat detection system that was approved back in March of 2021. That was approved as a temporary measure. The current condition of the building leaves that as a system that is inconsequential. It will have zero effect because of the openness of the building. All the heat will go to the top. It won't trigger if there's a fire on the lower floors. Simply put, we've all seen the chimney effect, right? You start a fire in the chimney, the smoke goes up. Well, it doesn't matter if there's a detection device here. If all the smoke is free flowing to the top floor, it's going to take a long time before that heat detection system works. The fire marshal has been in contact with Mateo about some options to alleviate that concern. We're talking about either potentially a fire watch during non-business hours or some other mechanisms. Also, we're talking about in the future doing work floor by floor, because putting temporary sprinkler systems in place is very, very costly. We recognize that. We're trying to be a good partner, even though this project is drawn out for an extended period of time. We worked with them and said, you could go floor by floor, so that way you're not having to put something in, remove it, put something in, remove it, put something in, remove it. We recognize the cost on that. One of our biggest concerns is that there was a statement made that they're going to be doing work on the outside of the building first, and that could take into next year before they actually do work on the inside. that doesn't help resolve our situation as far as that goes. Additionally, the fire marshal has had correspondence with Mateo, going over some of the items that I had discussed with you. The heat detector placement will not detect heat from a fire in a timely manner. The removal of the sprinkler system years ago, which was on 3/21, was understood to be a temporary for only a few months while some beams and such were placed. However, it's been out since then. The fire extinguishers are not in service or in date. They need to be re-inspected and certified. Fire loads that were observed, meaning the plastics, overall, the condition of the site, I would say, was organized but cluttered, if that makes sense. There was multiple areas where this plastic was stored, particularly under the stairwells, which is obviously a great concern to us. On the top floor, there was a lot of trash and debris still from when the roof was worked on. These are all things that are housekeeping items that could have been addressed, but as far as the cleanliness of the building itself, I really don't have any complaints as far as that, with the exception of the lower one-story building of the restaurant. There is piles and piles and piles of old lumber, new lumber, all kinds of stuff strewn in there. The roof is in complete disrepair, including the fact that it was leaking and there was plants growing out of it when we were there for inspection. If there was a fire that started there, it would have direct access to the main portion of the building, and it would, for lack of a better term, be off to the races. We would be behind the 8 ball if that were to occur. So that needs to be addressed immediately. There's some NFPA considerations that the fire marshal reviewed with Mateo as far as the fire watch and some options there. It has to be an approved company by the fire department. They have to provide a letter providing the fire department with notice of what services they are providing. It can't just be, oh, we just hired somebody to sit there, right? That's not what we're looking for. And that's in accordance with NFPA 241. We talked about the plywood across the elevator shaft. Additionally, there needs to be no smoking signs put in place throughout the project. I apologize for him not being here today. He had a family emergency, so I'm kind of pinch hitting here. So if I'm being redundant, I apologize. So one of the other things is in FPA 241, it says a water supply for fire protection must be present, which would be the standpipe system for the upper floors, shall be made available as significant combustible materials are present. All in all, again, we're recommending better housekeeping, on-site security when there's construction workers are not present, the removal of the excessive debris, and to get progress moved to remove some of those additional hazards, being the fall hazards and the snag hazards. So,
Okay.
Any questions?
Not at this point.
I'm just making sure I hit everything, which it appears I did.
Okay.
Okay.
We've been looking at this issue since the last meeting, trying to figure out how we want to address it, and that's why I had the fire chief get up there and speak about all these issues, specifically these, what we're calling temporary measures that would reduce the public safety issue. So these are, and he went through them all. So with that, I just wanted to go over what we as the city would like to see happen in this particular case, right? These are our would basically be that the city's recommendation as to how to handle this matter, what we'd ask the special magistrate to do. Obviously, the big issue is to get this construction back on board. One of the impediments, the issue of the building permit has been resolved. That related to the certificate of appropriateness. We feel like there are other measures that can be addressed to get the building permits issued for this project and get the project going again. The building official is here. He can talk to you about the necessity of what needs to be done to get the building permit issued from where we stand today, as we stand today.
That was the question that was floating in my head.
Okay, would you like him to address that right now?
Now, if now's a convenient time for you, I would like to hear that, yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Bob Deathridge, building official. The building review has been done on the plans. Fire had comments, zoning had comments, and the Historic Preservation Board had comments, which have not been addressed.
Okay.
So, we, at this point, we could not issue the permit.
The comments that were made, are they comments that can be addressed by respondent alone, or things like historic preservation particularly, is it something that's going to require meetings?
And I think if I could interrupt Mr. Decker, I think the city has resolved that historic preservation issue. So I believe, and Ms. Streeter is here, she can address, she's with
Okay.
historic preservation. But I don't think that's, again, I don't think that's an impediment.
Okay, so leaving out historic preservation, then, are the comments that have been received from, was it and it was fire and zoning? Are they comments that are in the complete control of the respondent, or are they things that need city action in addition to action by respondent?
Their action that is required by the
And
respondent.
can you tell me what those comments were? Do you happen to know?
I do not know off the top of my head. Do you recall, Christina?
No, but I can.
Good afternoon, Christina Soto, Deputy Building Official, or not official, but Deputy Director for Building. Fire had comments that dealt with his fire sprinklers that still need to be addressed. The zoning and the historic board, I believe Stephanie can speak to this, but once she receives that, we'll need her to go and approve the permit. But we are also missing on the permit all the subcontractors that are needed, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, so we'll still.
Okay, and that last part certainly is completely in the hands of the respondent. On the fire, and who's the best witness to explain this to me, I'll let y'all decide. But here's my challenge with, if fire is holding up the building permit, it's also fire that's standing here telling me they need to get a building permit so we can address these issues.
And if I could, so that's why we were trying to, I mean, that's a good discussion on the building permit. That's why we were trying to present this case in this manner.
Sure, I understood.
We, obviously, whenever you have a building that's under construction, there's always going to be issues with regard to it. I think the issues related to fire are essentially what are the plans going to anticipate with regard to the fire suspension systems, not necessarily whether they get done before the building permit would be issued.
So let me make sure, let me put it into how I'm understanding that, because I think now I'm starting to understand it. So the issues from fire were the end game, what their questions about the fire suppression system when it's done, not what we're doing with the temporary measures. Okay. The head was nodding back there for
Right,
the record.
right, and the temporary measures issues that we just discussed were to deal with the immediate threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, which we think is out there with the good condition of
I
the building.
understand now.
And that's why, so, from the city's perspective, that's why we're making, our petition, our request today is that they be given until March 6th to acquire the permits, the building permit to do this. That within 10 days after issuing of the permit, that they take the remedial temporary measures that the fire chief just went through to reduce the public safety issues, and then that ultimately that this building and the construction be completed by September of this year, to get the work done and get this project over with and completed and a certificate of occupancy issued. And that's our request today, to be able to address this issue, this long-standing issue.
Okay.
And of course, we did, and we did ask that if in the event that either of those dates aren't met, that the special magistrate impose a fine of $1,000 a day, as well as the administrative costs of $533.03 that have been incurred by the city.
If the city is done with its presentation, if you could leave the slide up that shows the temporary measures.
There's two slides of it.
It's the latter of the two, I think, that I want to have in front of everybody for respondents' benefit.
I'm pushing the right buttons. You want to try? Whoops. Uh-oh. Oh, that one? Whoops.
Yes,
That's the
I think
first
one
one.
forward,
That one.
yes.
Right.
Actually, I think it's both of those put together, isn't it? So it's really those two.
Yeah, it's two.
So you can go back to the first one, So I think those were actually probably the more detailed ones. Okay, anything else from the city at this time?
Not at this time, thank you, sir.
Respondent?
Hello, sir.
And if you say, start off by stating your name and relationship to the property for me.
Mateo Hodo, project manager for the St. Cloud Hotel.
And so I don't want to jump in and take you anywhere other than where you want to begin, but hearing what I'm hearing now, it at least sounds like we were more defined on what the issues to be resolved are than we were a month ago.
Yes.
And I know you've been involved in these conversations, but I suspect that maybe this list, I don't know if you've seen this list before or not. You have seen this list?
Yes.
So as far as the temporary measures, do you have issues or concerns with any of those? Broadly, forgetting the timing for a minute and just what they're asking for to happen.
The only one is the guard service and fire watch. I have cameras on the building. I actually contacted Corporal Fougier, but I found out that he was retired. But I wanted a report from the police department to basically prove that there hasn't been any break-ins in the building in the past since 2019 to date. There was one theft that happened during construction in 2020, but it was an internal job from one of the workers related, and the police department caught them. And the
So-
camera system was the one that helped resolve that issue.
I will tell you, if you're going to talk to me in context of security, as in no break-in security, I will tell you right now, you're going the wrong angle for me on this.
Okay.
And where I am when it comes to the fire watch concern is what we all heard the chief say about the existing monitoring that's there. And what a fire watch provides is a live body who can who can see what's happening, pick up the phone, and call fire immediately. Cameras do not provide the same thing.
I understand. Would it be possible, and this is a question for the fire chief, would it be possible to contact the fire monitoring system that's in place right now, that was temporarily approved, and it's been there since 2021? Would it be possible to contact them and tell them the issues and see if they can actually extend the monitoring system with more sensors to actually detect and immediately notify?
I think it's a fair question. Let's put it on pause. Let's
Okay.
leave that for a second and let's let you continue, and then I'll bring the fire chief back
Okay.
up in a little bit when we have a nice break and just in your testimony.
Okay.
And then I'll ask him that question. But I think it's a fair question to ask and
Yes.
see what the answer is.
I think all of the other, the fire extinguishers, I'll have them resurfaced. The stairs, more protection on the stairs for falling. All of those, I have no issues fulfilling.
Okay, and Dan, can we go to the next page of this just so I can go through all those too and make sure there's no.
Storage, actually, I want to mention, the fire chief was very graceful saying that it's a clean job site, and I pride myself on having a very clean job site. They probably noticed that the majority of the stuff that's in there, it's actually components from the scaffolding, because I dismantled it prior to the permit ending and to hurricane-proof the building for the hurricane season. So pretty much what's around and even underneath the stairs is scaffold netting, which is like plastic. All of that, it's basically components that once job site resumes and all of the scaffolding pieces go back into place, they will actually end up going into place, so that will take care of a lot of that. We used to have a storage container that the city had us remove the beginning of last year, where we kept all of our access storage. And then the other debris that's on the fourth floor that the fire chief mentioned is from the roof, and we were told to leave it because of our roof case. And actually, I may even speak on that. Everyone that needed to inspect the roof, including the manufacturer, which happened the same day that our inspection happened later on, evaluated a report. So now is just the mediation was scheduled for February 12th. The attorney of the roofer requested that our attorney agree to postponing mediation to April because the roofer hired 2 subcontractors, and now they would like to add the subcontractors to the case. And the attorney recommended that we do postpone the mediation because now there will be 4 insurances that will go after to settle better than just 2. But they did say that should we choose to, we could start touching the roof again, because everybody that needed to
Positive news also.
yes. The window,
So let me give you, while you're on the topic of particularly the plastic.
Yes.
Because there was a point made in the city's presentation about that, and I saw it and I heard it. And it is the combustibles underneath those wood stairs. And as I look at that and as I hear the testimony, the concerned place that my brain goes is if those combustibles light, it's burning right up those stairs. And if somebody's on those upper floors, they have no way back down. And so I think it's not, I didn't hear anybody say the plastics have to be, 10 miles away, but get the combustibles away from those wood components, especially the wood components that get people up and down in the building. That's what I heard about those plastics.
yeah, and I mean, we could literally resolve that right after this meeting. That's not an issue.
I'm not surprised to hear you say that.
Yes.
I just wanted to put into context what I was hearing, that it wasn't about that the plastics are evil. It was simply that how they're stored and where they're stored is creating additional danger.
Yes. So I was having a conversation with Fire Marshal. There isn't any liquid, there isn't any fire, anything that would actually spread and combust and blow out in the building. There isn't anything that will inhibit or basically blow a fire out of proportion.
There's no explosives,
Nothing.
but there are combustibles. The whole building is a combustible.
Right, it's wood. It's a wood structure, but that's.
That's why I'm making that distinction. I
And-
hear what you're saying. There are no explosives in the building, but the whole building itself is a combustible.
Correct, but then the other question remains on how the fire would start. The only way, or the highest risk that I see reasonable, it would be arson. It would be somebody literally physically going there to start a fire. Other than that, I don't see what else can actually start a fire besides that.
We talked about a couple at the last meeting, lightning being one of those. And lightning causes a lot of fires in the state of Florida.
It can, potentially, but it could cause that to any building. What's different about this one?
Where it is in its state of repair.
Yes, but where it is in its state of repair, it's in the best place that it's ever been for 100 years.
That may be, but it still is a dangerous building as it is currently situated.
And what would make that dangerous?
Well, and Mr. Smith, this was the argument discussion we had.
I understand, I
don't
understand,
want
but,
to relitigate that issue.
so as you heard and as I heard at the last hearing, if drywall were there, drywall is a fire retardant. As the building moves forward in the process, it will become less of a dangerous building. But as it is situated right now, it is dangerous. I don't think anybody here is telling me otherwise. If it caught on fire, it would be dangerous to anybody in that building because it would go up like that.
I do not want to be difficult,
I understand.
but I want to be reasonable.
And I think you are being reasonable, and you've already told me that what they have asked for is able to be done.
It is, and it can be done fairly quick and definitely within the required timeline of it being
And
done.
where we are from this meeting to last meeting, and the benefit, really the benefit that you kind of leaned into at the last meeting, which was let's get in the building and let's take a look. The benefit of now being able to see what the condition of that interior is, it gives the city a better idea of what they're dealing with, which lets them work with you more, and it lets them bring what they brought to me, which is more specifics, and to narrow in, this is what we need. So this list is what they're saying, this is what we need now.
Yes, and I have no issues completing the list that I understand it's making a firefighter's job dangerous. No issues. No issues with the rebars, no issues with more fall protection, no issues with the opening on the staircases in the back. And the gusset plates, maybe we need to review them with the fire chief because the architect and I were looking at all of that even prior to this meeting. So I definitely have no issue with that. I think that fire watch would be expensive. I think it's unreasonable, and I think it's specific targeting.
I will
think-
tell you this, I represent other cities, and there are plenty of buildings in the state of Florida that are on fire watch right now.
I was having a conversation with the fire marshal, and potentially with AI, we could do a monitored camera system that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week monitored, AI monitored, and to help mitigate that and be so that it. So basically, what I'm trying to get to is let's all be reasonable to get to our ultimate goal into what we all want to achieve. We all want construction to start, and we all want the building to be safe should there be anything, and we all want the building to be kept in good maintained order and continued. As far as my question arose during the conversation because last meeting I presented you a printout from the building department, and all the plan reviews were approved and all the comments were accepted. The only thing that was standing was the certificate of appropriateness, and I handed that out. So I'm not sure where that came from today and where the misunderstanding is there.
I don't know that it's a misunderstanding. When permits linger for periods of months, often new issues arise because the condition of a building that's sitting deteriorates.
In what sense? Like, how would it deteriorate?
Just time passes. The other thing that has happened in this case is the city has now been allowed inside the building, so they may have seen things that they were not aware of before that was going through reviews. But until a permit is issued, a city has every right to find new reasons to say, nope, we remembered something else that we need to add to the list.
So then my question is, are there new comments? Because my understanding and the architect's understanding and my design team's understanding is that all the comments have been responded from all disciplines.
I'll ask that question when we get done too, to make sure that the comments that were mentioned to me have been provided to you, because that will play into my feelings on the timing of what's
Yes.
being asked for.
So the statutory evidence of the time frame that it has been under construction, and the statutory evidence of the time frame that it has been vacant and a jeopardized structure, there is no debate that this building is safer today than it has been for
That
a long
argument is
period
not
of
going
time.
to persuade me.
It's not about persuading you, it's just a simple fact.
It's not going to persuade me. A dangerous building is a dangerous building. I don't care if it's less dangerous today than it was 10 years ago.
So then the debate remains really what makes it dangerous.
And again, Mr. Smith, we'll renew this, and this is what we argued about last.
I understand. You tell me what isn't dangerous about this building. I just saw all the photographs, and you saw them too.
I understand. So in case of fire, the fall protection and all, and the rebars, but it's a construction site. It's under construction.
It was a construction site, and then you let the building permits lapse.
That could be a much further, deeper conversation, should we go down that.
The evidence before me is expired permits.
Yes.
We would
and
not
we're-
be
and-
here had those permits not expired. Had construction not stopped, we wouldn't be here. But construction stopped, permits expired, and now here we are.
Yes, so we're helping on resolving that.
It's your responsibility to resolve. It's your project.
I
You're not
am-
helping to resolve
I
it.
am
You're
sup-
helping yourself by
Yes,
resolving it.
But I am trying to supply everything that I'm being asked for.
And you are doing an excellent job. I'm curious why we're starting to argue.
I'm sorry. The only argument is that it really isn't a dangerous structure. Should someone choose to break in, yes, they can break in into any structure.
It's
but
not
even
the
in
break-in I'm concerned about. It's the fire that starts and that building goes up like that.
So
And
then-
what I saw in the photographs is a whole lot more exposed wood than I was expecting to see, frankly.
Yeah, it's under frame. It's in frame stage.
And it's been sitting that way for some time
That is
with
correct.
expired permits.
For the past, since July, I believe, of last year when it expired.
And that is all persuasive to me.
So this is where the question is then, what is taking so long to get the new permit issued? Because the city made comments in July, the architect and engineer had all the responses to the comments ready by August. They were supposed to be submitted in. The architect,
Respect, we continue to go down.
I
Mr. Deckridge
understand.
testified about what's missing for the permit that falls in the respondent's requirement for them to submit to get the permit. He continues to go over the same issues, and the city's being extremely reasonable on this, but is extremely frustrated with the process.
I understand. You can continue.
so then maybe we need to clarify what is left on the permit that needs to be satisfied.
I will ask those questions, but those questions are not the questions for me. That is between you and the city ultimately.
Okay.
My role here, again, is the case that's before me, which is the presentation of this building and its condition with its history and its recent history that I have found is a dangerous building. And how do we resolve that? I've been presented with temporary measure requests that seem reasonable to me. I understand your concern with cost of fire watch. We'll ask those questions, see if there are any other alternatives that might be more palatable for you. But I've also heard you say that beyond that these are all doable.
Yeah.
So I don't hear in the case that's before me, I don't hear the city being unreasonable. I see the city actually, like the attorney just said, trying to work with you. And I see you trying to work with them.
So where are we not seeing each other eye to eye?
I'm not sure.
So this is where we need to resolve.
So with the list that's been provided, we'll ask the question on fire watch if there are alternatives, but as to the work, is the requested completion date, which I believe was March 9th was the request,
To obtain the building permit, our initial request was to,
for the completion of the temporary, it was within 10 days.
10
So
days,
March
okay.
9th for the building permit and 10 days from that to complete the remedial measures.
The
Is that,
temporary measures.
is that timing doable, in your mind, or does that present problems? And I understand with the permit.
To certain items.
Actually, let's pause here and let me ask that question on what is between you and having that permit finalized. And let's get that, because that may weigh into your answer to the question I just asked you.
Okay,
So let
thank
me
you.
ask you to step aside, and so my question will be, whichever witness is the best one, what stands between respondent and having that permit issued? What are the remaining comments that need to be addressed? And has the respondent been provided those comments, and when was the respondent provided those comments?
The respondent was provided those comments before the last meeting and again at the last meeting. And the main issue is before we can issue the permit, they need to list their subcontractors. And they have not done that.
And were the zoning issues strictly related to the historic preservation?
Yes.
So that sounds like that has been resolved. Fire, can I just get Fire Chief, would you mind coming up, please? So, assuming the temporary measures are put into place, and assuming that they are able to do the things that the city has asked for, does that resolve Fire's comments, or do you have other questions down the road for that?
So
ultimate?
Fire has had numerous comments that are still, some of which are still outstanding, including that they need to certify the wall between the restaurant and the hotel as a 2-hour fire-rated wall. They still have not done that. They still have not demonstrated emergency lighting in proper locations. They have not submitted for the fire sprinkler plan, or I'm sorry, the fire detection or the sprinkler plan are required to be on separate permits. They have not submitted any of that. And we also have noted from the very beginning that a BDA test will need to be completed. This was provided to them on December 15th, 2025. In addition, if I can, just to address those two other questions that were posed, We did not provide a picture of it. However, there is numerous electrical items being stored at the site, which is not that big of a deal, other than the fact that there is another fire code violation of note that there's a refrigerator running in the building for some strange
So
reason.
there is
And it's-
power to the building?
There is power to the building. The refrigeration system, or the refrigerator itself, is plugged into an extension cord, which is probably, I don't know, 30 to 40 feet long, maybe even 50 feet, running through debris and through walls under construction, plugged into, it looks like a temporary outlet box there. As far as site security, NFPA 241 16.4.2.5 clearly says guard services shall be provided where required by the AHJ. Where required, buildings with combustible construction exposed during construction for more than 40 feet above grade. This more than meets that consideration. We understand that it is costly. As far as redesigning the current system, my feeling is the fire marshal, he's a little more versed in that aspect of it. That's his day-to-day. The problem there is he would have to go through an entire new plan, submittal, redesign of the current system that's in there.
But to keep the option open, and for the benefit of my conversation when the respondent comes back up, would it be, for instance, if I were to rule today that he has to have fire watch or an alternative mechanism or means approved by the fire department, to the extent there are alternative means that he might want to pursue, would the fire department work with him as long as they satisfied an FPA?
As long as it satisfies NFPA, State of Florida Fire Code, and the building officials codes, I wouldn't have a problem with it. The problem's gonna be is getting across that finish line.
Understood, and it's
I
the,
don't
it's the
think-
tough spot that every respondent is in is, what ends up being more expensive at the end of the day, because that could turn out to be more expensive than Firewatch. On the Firewatch issue, so once permits are issued, once construction becomes active again, does that change the Firewatch requirement at all?
Not until some of those areas are covered up. As long as there's that much exposed wood, if the site is unsecured or secure but not monitored by an active system, we still have the same concerns. Nothing's changed just because it's under construction. It doesn't change until those building elements are starting to be covered and protected, as you
So once you
mentioned
have the
earlier.
fire protection, it's not until the fire protection and the Firewatch requirement could go away.
And that's why
Correct.
one of the temporary measures is required weekly fire inspections, so that we can see the progress of all that. And then ultimately, maybe the fire watch does go away.
And if I may, all of the comments that we've had here, they're all available online, 24 hours a day, to the customer,
For the contract.
to the contractor, yes.
Okay.
Oh, I had one.
Yes, sir.
I heard this, but I wanted to clarify this. My understanding, someone, I think Stephanie, you addressed it, there is some revision to the plans that's required before the permit's going to, the ones that are currently under review. My understanding that there's a structure on the Massachusetts side of the building that's shown on the plans, which needs to be removed from those plans.
Okay, so we
And
get
then-
that testimony on the record, please.
I'm sorry?
I said we can get that testimony on
Yeah.
the record.
So can you?
Stephanie Streeter, Principal Planner with Community Development. Yes, so before our historic preservation review can be approved, they do need to amend their plans to be in line with what got approved that they extended. So we did receive their extension request for the April 2022 approval, but it needs to be in line with that. There's a one-story addition to the rear of the building on the Massachusetts side that needs to be removed from those plans. If they remove that from the plans, I can approve them.
Okay.
Thank you.
One-story building that's, Stephanie, yes? Would you mind just repeating? You'll say it better than I will try to repeat it.
Yes, so the one-story structure, I believe on their plans it's noted as the new lounge, which is to the rear of the hotel on the Massachusetts side, would need to be removed from the plans because it has not been captured in any of the certificate of appropriatenesses. Thank you.
So, I'm not sure of the why behind removing those plans, because they have been in the renderings, they have been in the architectural plans, they have been in
What
the
I'm,
structural
what I'm hearing
plans.
is the same conversation we had about the windows on the restaurant last meeting, is that they're not part of the certificate of appropriateness.
But they,
Your building plans for your building permit have to conform to the approved certificate of appropriateness.
so the certificate of appropriateness that I'm regarding in 2019, April of 2022, has all of that covered. It's actually in the rendering. It's within the certificate of appropriateness. And the whole thesis behind all of the measurements is the unification of the entire structure, including the restaurant and the additions in the back. So if they're in the structural plans, in the architectural plans, in the renderings, were they never considered?
Were they submitted as part of your certificate of
It was,
appropriateness
it's a whole
application?
package. It's everything together. And it was submitted to the city since 2022, and again on our major plan revision in 2023. And then again on our new application for a new permit. It's always been in the plans. That's a reconstruction of an existing part of the structure that used to be there, that it was in such bad condition that it wasn't original to the structure, kind of like the restaurant, that it wasn't worth saving, so it got demolished, approved for demolition, and it's being rebuilt. And it's being rebuilt to the new design, including the restaurant. And the restaurant design has changed. And all the arguments and the thesis behind that has been explained over and over. So
Let me pause you. Can the city, just on this point, on the certificate of appropriateness, the one-story building on the first floor, is there a response to what the respondent just?
Yeah, and I think, if I may, I think the respondent is having a complete, has a lot of difficulty in understanding the difference between a building department review of its plans and its project and the requirements of the historic preservation ordinance, which applies to this building.
Understood.
Not the federal one, but the city ordinance.
And ultimately, those are issues that are not for me to decide, but they do play into the timing of everything, which is why I want to have a handle on them.
So for Historic Preservation Board, our motions are very specific, and when you look at the scope of work that was approved with that April 19th, 2022 approval, it did not include a one-story structure. That was never a part of the application. Whether it's in the renderings, they did not approve renderings. They approved a specific scope of work. The one-story building was never included in the scope of work.
Okay, I understand.
Thank you.
Do you understand what that distinction is?
I understand, but why would that never be brought up?
Because you made the application. The city didn't
Do you
do
remember?
that.
Do you remember we had and I'm.
Yes, but
I'm starting to lose patience again. So you remember we had the conversation at the last meeting.
Yes.
Judge Sloop, pro se respondent or pro se litigant would appear before him and say, "But I'm sorry, Your Honor, I don't have an attorney." And he would say, "You are the project manager. It is not the city's job to hold your hand to the process. It's your job to understand the process, and you drive your own truck."
I understand. I fully understand.
Then don't stand there and tell me, why didn't the city fix this for me? Why didn't they catch this for me? It
Because-
was your job.
I understand, sir. All I'm saying is that that part of the project had never considered or had never gained any historic significance. The restaurant, I was told afterwards that it gained separate historic significance to the structure. We're redoing the entire structure. That portion of the structure, that addition that was there, it never gained any historic significance. It was never brought into any sort of conversation as it had gained historic significance. It was an addition that was done at some point, very poorly done, including the restaurant. And the fire chief himself at the meeting, at the site inspection, noticed how the structure of the restaurant is completely pulling away from the existing structure of the main building. So my whole presentation for historic preservation, it's the entire package. Everything that's attached to that building will be properly attached structurally, architecturally, and all aspects.
Yes, but I've heard
So
I've
if-
heard about as much on the historic preservation as is going to be relevant to me today. Understand, two different spheres. In every city I work in that has historic preservation, these are challenging, especially when we wind up in front of code enforcement for this exact issue. Things that building department looks at are not the same things that historic preservation looks at. They are tangential, yes, but completely different perspectives. But ultimately, these are your issues to work through. I cannot decide them today. They are not mine to decide. My issue today is the building and getting it safe.
I understand. And what I'm saying is that the building has had 3 certificate of appropriatenesses. In all.
And
thi-
I'm moving, I understand the history. I cannot decide or control that. I am going to decide on the building and what needs to be done to make it safe. So we can move off certificate of appropriateness now, and I think I have architect ready to provide testimony.
Well, if I may, I just.
Name and relationship for me.
My name is Jeff Davis, I'm the architect of record. As far as the rear portion, it's a pretty important and integral part of this building in order for it to function in the future. So I guess my question is, because we're kind of in a loop here in order to get to the next step, would it be possible to reapply or resubmit?
You can always apply,
And have,
as we talked about the last
I
meeting.
understand, and I saw the head nod.
and I was not
The answer is
present for the last
understood.
meeting, so this is new information to me about that part not being, I guess, part of the original, because it would probably have been before my time, correct? Yes, yeah, so, well, then that answers my question if we're able to do that, but I don't know what that does to your timeline as far as, you know.
Was there anything else from the architect that you
That's
wanted to
all I
offer?
have at the moment.
Did you want to comment on the fire comments?
And as far as the fire comment, the 2 hour, that is new information to me. I did not see that when the comments came in before, but I think we can easily take care of that as far as the calculated assembly. The thickness of the masonry walls, more than enough to make sure that that's a 2 hour wall. So I think we're clear and good on that part.
Okay. Let me ask you to pause. I'm going to get building official. I have a question for building official. If I could. So, with a mindset of trying to get active permits, active construction moving again, would it be possible to carve out, would it be possible for the respondent to carve out of building permit application the one-story building that's causing the historic preservation problem on the ground floor, to just basically easily carve out? I don't mean new drawings, I just mean for everybody to agree in a, pros. Somebody writes a sentence, say, we'll pull that out for the time being, and then once they resolve the historic preservation issues, again, plug it back in as easily as it was pulled out, just to get this to the permit line.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, that I think gives us some direction, and now if the respondent wants to come back up, let's have a conversation about that. And architect, you stick around.
So we can take care of that separately.
That was where I was getting to. If y'all can just carve that one point out, and so that's not holding you up from permitting, and then work on it, and then just get it added back in once it's resolved, is the timeline requested by the city, at least in the neighborhood of workable for
I
you?
would say so, yeah.
So that was March 9th for permit issuance?
March 6th.
March 6th for permit
Can I
issuance?
see those comments again, if you don't mind, just because I don't have,
Well, you can certainly have a copy of them and have access to them.
well, just so I can look, in order to
Oh.
really truthfully answer your
Sure,
question.
please, I appreciate that. Take what time you need.
Let me just skim over these real quick. Mateo, do you mind coming up and looking at these real quick, too? So fire's comments right here. I'm not sure what that is, I guess.
So-
He's got that taken care of. Fire sprinkler plans, you have a guy on that already. The wall, that's an easy one right there. And then these right here, I don't know what that specifically is. The emergency license side of the stairs, I guess that's a Richard comment, so I can get with him ASAP on that, but do you see any issues about that? Getting resolved for them, right?
I mean, this comment here that the fire and sprinkler to be submitted with a separate permit, when they were submitted, they were asked to be on the same permit, so we can do that.
But that's just, it's
Yeah,
just,
the BDA survey, we would have to call
that's
in.
Larry, right?
No, BDA, it's a communication system for fire department within a building to make sure their radios actually work, because sometimes when buildings get too insulated, their radio system doesn't function, but I don't know why that is
But to
mandatory.
answer this gentleman's question, you think we're good for March 9th,
March 6th.
March 6th, sorry.
I'm not sure. I would have to contact, I would have to find a BDA surveyor and see. But the BDA survey, and maybe the fire chief can help with this. Excuse
These
me.
are all issues that should have been done when.
I understand,
Well,
but here we
but they
are, so.
But it's a,
I'm glad Mr.
see,
Davis is finally seeing this. 'cause he doesn't seem
no,
like he sees
because
it.
some of these are unreasonable issues that keep getting
Code,
brought
sir.
up.
It's the code.
They keep getting brought up for unreasonable issues. The BDA, are you familiar?
I
with-
am.
Okay. Usually, the BDA survey, it's done after the building is insulated and sheetrocked. If we do a BDA survey now, it most likely will pass because there isn't enough penetration in the walls. The BDA survey usually gets done when the building is almost encapsulated to make sure that the radio frequency will travel through. So this is a conversation that we've had with the fire marshal prior. It's something that we want to do before we sheetrock the building. So if we do need to add it, we can wire it in. But if we do it now, it's not going to be the same as if it's done when the building is finished, because of the frequency that it will be intercepted from all the finishing
Okay,
products.
let me ask the fire chief that question. Just, don't go far, just, if you
Yeah.
just give a couple feet to the side. Any wiggle room on that, chief?
Well, I'm a little confused by the rationale. He's saying that it needs to be done when the building's closer to being done, but then he wants to wire it ahead of time. In my opinion, they're not that expensive. I would go ahead and do it now, because I'd be willing to bet money that as thick as those walls are on that building, it's gonna need a BDA. Just through experience, the walls in that building are, in some places, probably 2 feet thick. They're particularly in the restaurant area.
Hence the 2 hour.
Right, I mean, you're talking, the radio signals don't typically broadcast through that. If he waits until the drywall's up, there is a good possibility he's gonna have to rip drywall down to reinstall the wiring for the BDA system. I don't understand, he kind of went back and forth there. In my experience, it's been particularly with very old construction and new construction, that BDA systems are needed. It's just the reality of today's building products.
Okay, and I think where the respondent was coming from is if they do it now and they get not needed, once they put in more, then they would have to do it again to see.
I would do the test now because the test is not that expensive.
I meant I was going to do it prior to sheetrock.
No, I understood what you meant, and I also understand where the chief is coming from, though, and I
Yes.
think that there's a fire is seeing this as a high likelihood that you're gonna need a BDA system no matter what.
Okay, you're good. We can get with Stephanie separately on that.
Do you happen to have the printout of the permit reviews that I submitted to you last
do
meeting?
not.
You do not?
Do you have it, Claudia?
I
by
do
chance?
not know
No.
if I have a
Okay.
Oh,
It does because.
Yes, but again, when, I am only concerned today with what gets us moving forward. I'm not particularly concerned with who said what when in the past. And I'm hearing very clearly, I'm seeing you working very, very well with the city to determine what needs to be done. I'm hearing resolutions, so I am not concerned with who said what, to whom, about what in the past right now.
Okay. Right. It was my understanding that everything was reviewed and it was approved and all the comments were satisfactory on all disciplines besides zoning and HPB certificate of appropriateness issue on the restaurant. That was the only outstanding
Again,
thing.
if I may,
Yes.
the comments are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week online.
I understand.
And he's heard it here 3 times today.
I understand.
I don't think that we have an issue responding to the
No,
comments
no,
there by March 6th.
Okay, so I want to be clear, the city's request is not that they respond by March 6th, is that the permit
Be issued and in hand
And in
by
hand.
March 6th.
So then it needs to become crystal clear so that we have
You've
absolutely
heard it
no
3 times
question.
already today.
on what is needed for that to become.
That is what we just finished talking about. That is addressing those comments. Those comments are what stand between you and that permit being issued.
Only on the fire and sprinkler, as a separate permit.
Whatever the comments are, sir.
The comments that have been, I don't need your building. I can handle it.
As well as the subcontractors.
Yes, every comment you've received needs to be addressed between now and March 6th. These were the ones related to what we're talking about, the building, but the zoning needs to be addressed. We've talked about that here. That can be dealt with by carving out that building for the time being to get to building permit issuance. So you can address zoning's comments by simply carving out that building for the time being while you work with historic preservation if you want to add it back in. And the other would be the other comments from building, which are the list of subcontractors. So the ones that we've talked about are the ones that I would foresee if there was anything to cause you problems with March 6th. We've talked about those. The rest sound like pretty standard, we just need more information from you type comments.
I'm just gonna check on something real quick. You know, Your Honor, I was part of the HPB presentation in 2019. I was part of the HPB presentation in April of '22 and June of '22 as well. In all of the HPB meetings and approvals,
You're talking about an issue I cannot decide today.
no.
And we have discussed a way of making sure that issue does not hold you up, so that issue is resolved for my purposes. I realize it leaves work for you to do, but for the purposes of this hearing, the historic preservation is not going to be one that influences me to do one thing or another because we have found a pathway to carve it out of what's holding you up.
On our end, supplying a list of the subcontractors and supplying the comments to the fire department for fire, it seems is the only one left. It shouldn't be an issue to do that by March 6th.
Okay?
Yes, so should be.
So moving on down the list then, the next requested timeframe would be within 10 days of that permit being issued. Keep in mind that the way that is phrased means if that permit were issued on March 1st, 10 days would be March 10th. So that is a moving target. It doesn't necessarily mean March 16th. It could be, but it depends on what day that permit is actually issued. Having those remedial measures in place, is that feasible for you?
We need to go back to the remedial.
Sure, can we go back to those two slides? Let's start there.
Okay. So installation of fall protection, no issue. Now, I have a question for the fire chief. When we presume construction, one of the things that's left in the main structure is the elevator shaft. Instead of putting plywood across it just to cover it, I would actually like to resume finishing out the elevator shaft all the way to the roof and encapsulate it as it should be instead of doing temporary plywood. So could we, like,
Could you do temporary plywood while you work on it? While you finish it?
Sure.
Best of both worlds?
Sure. And to my question earlier, I don't know if it was answered. Can we contact the company that we have that does the fire
So
monitoring?
here's
Chief?
what I kind of alluded to earlier, where I'm leaning as far as an order, because, you know, once I enter an order, I'm resolving issues. And so
Okay.
it's not easy to enter an order and leave things, you know, floating in the wind.
Yes.
So where I'm thinking is to order fire watch or another, I don't know what the fire protection system or program approved by the fire department. So that would give you, if there is something that would meet those requirements, that would satisfy the NFPA section, because they're not making this stuff up. I mean, the requirements that they're talking about are coming straight out of code, and not a code that the city creates. National Fire Prevention Code is, you know, is a code the state has adopted. It's also a national code that the state has adopted. It's kind of like Florida Building Code in that the state tells us what fire codes we apply. We don't create, cities do not create that on their own. So they have to satisfy those fire codes. So if there is some other system that would satisfy the fire code that's requiring them to ask for this, I want to give them the flexibility to work with you on that, but something needs to happen more than what is there. So where I'm leaning right now is to order the fire watch or an alternative approved by the fire department to give you that flexibility to say, hey, can we do this, can we do that, to continue working with the city to find some alternative. But something is going to be done, and if there is no alternative, it will have to be fire watch.
I have a question. Last meeting, the city mentioned that should there be a fire in the building while there is no construction, there is no one in the building, they're not going to send firefighters to actually stop the fire. They would let the building burn. Is this list so that if there is a fire in the building, they would actually send firefighters and put out the fire?
I will ask that question of the fire chief, but I will say that reading the list and hearing the testimony given, I would say that's exactly what they've asked for, is to make sure that when firefighters like to go into that building, that they are as safe as can possibly be under the circumstances. That's why they were making the statement a month ago that we can't send firefighters in there because we don't know what we're sending them into. Now they've had the benefit of being in the building. Now they know what the firefighter safety issues are. And now you are saying, yes, I can fix those. So it sounds like we are resolving those concerns, but I will allow the fire chief to tell me if I'm right or not.
Yes, sir. As those safety concerns are addressed, we will go into an offensive mode, depending on the fire, obviously. If we were to get there and it's blowing out every window, different story. However.
But that's an assessment you make in every case.
Correct.
That's nothing
That is a
particular to
standard
this
assessment.
building.
We would treat this building no different than any other at that point. And to your point of the fire watch or that system, I would ask for an effective date to have one or the other decided upon. So that.
Well, as it stands and what's been requested by the city and where I am leaning at this point would be that to grant what's been asked, that by that 10 days after building permit, fire watch be in place. And then if they want to move off of fire watch, if there is something else that's less expensive, less onerous on them, they would have that ability to work with you while on fire watch to maybe get off of fire watch sooner rather than later.
We would be amenable to that.
Okay. Water supply for fire protection. Can we elaborate what that would mean?
I believe this has been addressed on multiple occasions by Chief Tonks, but that has to do with the standpipe and sprinkler system requirements. Obviously, the standpipes as needed for the different floors of the fire. And then, as we had talked earlier about putting in those systems as the floors are finished, so that way it reduces that need to do those temporary systems. I think that this is,
And really as I understand this request, the water supply for fire protection, that has more to do, it has to do with the absence of the sprinkler system. But
Correct.
so really what this means is the standpipe floor by floor, so that if there were a firefighter on that floor, they have a way of getting water to put out a fire.
absolutely, yep. That's what we're looking for. There's no backflow, there's nothing on the outside of the building either as far as for fire suppression. Everything is out, so.
And with this one, to the last question that respondent asked, I mean, this one sounds like to me something that's also in your best interest to do for the reason that you raised, that if firefighters go into that building to put out a fire, we all want them to have the water to do so.
Yes, and it's designed that way for the fire sprinkler system of the entire building, and as per floor, it will be
But
built like that.
until the sprinkler, and what they're saying, until the sprinkler system is online, they need a way of getting water. That's what that bullet point is about.
So then, do we install a temporary standpipe outside where the main water supply is for now, and then,
If that gets water to each floor, then I believe that would work, yes.
I mean, that wouldn't get water to each floor unless we pipe to each floor.
Yes.
But that would happen in conjunction with everything else on the MEPs. May I,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you might want to consider a temporary standby system if it's feasible to do that, and then you can work around it and then come back in with the permit. It's better than the temporary sprinkler system for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, time-wise, but
okay. I will work with the fire marshal on that, to have a clear understanding and satisfy him. Can we go to the other page? I thought there were 2 pages.
There's a second page.
there was one about the storage and.
Oh, organized storage. May I ask the city to give us permission to put a storage container back in the parking lot in the back?
Absolutely not. That storage container that he's talking about was not on their property. It was on actual city property. They don't have control, and it blocked the access way to the alley piece. So they're gonna have to figure out other storage capacity.
Okay.
I mean,
The city gave you permission at one
yes,
point.
the
Never
city.
did. City never. the
Under,
city never
I
officially
understand
gave
the
it.
issue. So
Took
the
permission.
question was asked and the answer was no. But the combustibles are gonna have to be stored in a way to not increase the fire risk.
Okay. How are we going to get to an end goal together, all together? Should we,
That's not a question I can answer, and it's not my job to answer it. I am the trier of fact.
I understand,
I'm
but,
not a politician.
So could I ask the city a question as far as if they kept the alleyway clear and you would want to, there's no alternative as to being able to use a portion of that for a storage trailer or some kind of,
I mean, you should understand this. You have a construction project, you have a building permit. The entirety of your construction project needs to be within the boundaries of your property. You can't extend beyond it without permission from owners. You can't block the right-of-way, you can't block public access.
and I'm asking permission to see if we can.
No, the city's not gonna do that. The city has worked with this project for almost a decade now. And for this gentleman to insinuate that the city's not working with is frankly just insulting to the city. And we have worked very hard to try to get them to get to get this thing moving forward and get a conclusion. And the community is at their wits' end about this project, which is why we are being as aggressive as we are. So we cannot provide any further assistance. You're gonna have to figure it out on your own.
it seems like the community is actually not frustrated with us.
Again, you're
and-
both sides at this point are
Well,
talking
but
about
here's the-
matters that are gonna be irrelevant to my decision.
Yes, but with respect, the comment, no, I think that the city is just as responsible for all of the delays in this process.
And those are all things that I have the joy of not having to participate in because I am here on getting the building safe. How that happens, I won't be here for. I enter the ruling. Try the facts.
Well, I'm offering a solution that would satisfy the fire chief's concern on the restaurant with all the wood that's there, all of tidying up the inside of the structure.
And you're more
have
than free to
everything-
pursue that offer with the city after we leave here, but I will enter a ruling today that says that that has to be neat and orderly and stored so that there are not increased combustibles creating fire risks inside. So how you get to what I order is between you and the city, or between you and your contractors. But I am not going to mediate that dispute. That is not my role. That is not what I'm hired to do. I am here to try facts.
The cover and protect gusset plates. Can the fire chief elaborate on that? Is that specific to that staircase and that particular truss that's on the staircase that he mentioned earlier? Because it's a little.
So Chief, you showed a picture. Is that picture representative, or was that the issue, or is that representative of issues on each floor?
It was representative of various gusset plates we saw. Some of them were peeled back. Some of them looked like they tried to hammer them back on with a hammer, which is not the appropriate way to reseat gusset plates. I don't know that I saw any missing, but there was numerous that were in various states of damage that need to be readdressed. Some of them were backed out over halfway.
Okay, but so the picture was not the
It was not the area
exclusive-
of focus. It was just a representation of the gusset plates themselves.
So the issue is that the gusset plates are compromised, not so much that they need to be covered and protected, correct?
Well, it's kind of both, because you have to get them covered and protected eventually with drywall to protect them.
Ultimately, but in
Prior
context
to
of this
doing
being
that, they need to be
temporary
repaired.
measures, do they need to cover them now, or do they just need to
I need them repaired.
repair? So that bullet point, probably we could, for purposes of what we're doing right now, that would be better to state as repair gusset plates.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes?
Then we would need to have another inspection and go through which ones need repair, so that we understand which ones need repair.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
Why is it the city's job to tell you how to repair the building that you are the project manager for?
Because I did not notice and I do not see any issues with the gusset plates, and I need to be made aware that there are. Because if I'm not noticing that, and the architect didn't notice them either, and we walked the entire building, so then if they saw something that we didn't see.
This is an easy enough issue to resolve. I will ask you to keep in mind what I just said as you move through this project. Because there are many projects in the city that the city will arrive at when permits are called, or when inspections are called in. They'll inspect. If there's an issue, they'll leave the punch list. Those issues will get addressed. But the contractors do not say, hold my hand while I do this. And I'm sorry, I do not mean to offend, but I have heard a lot of hold my hand in the last two hearings. So, this is an easy issue to resolve, because part of my order will be for you to allow the city to inspect and make sure that you have installed the temporary measures appropriately. That inspection should occur by March 6th. My suggestion to you then would be that you get those gusset plates fixed sooner than March 6th, and what you think needs to be done sooner than March 6th, call in, ask the city to come and inspect. That way, if they say you missed these three, or you missed those over there, that you have time to fix them before March 6th arrives.
No offense taken. There is no need, no offense taken. But it's not about a holding hand as much as it's a matter of the city making issues and changing things around on any matter, just like the HPV and the certificate of appropriateness. These are things that are coming up out of nowhere, and they're not being brought up at the time that they really should be brought up. This is what I'm trying to get to. It's not about holding my hand. It's about me being clear so that things don't change and then become unclear.
Mr. Smith, the only comment as to your last comment we'd have is that we believe the repair of those gussets will require a building permit. So to have them done before the building permit is issued might be problematic to be able to address those. The fire chief.
I'm sorry, and that was my misspeaking, because I said March 6th. It would actually be within the 10 days from March 6th is when that's supposed to occur, because a lot of things in that list is going to be dependent on that building permit. Yeah, that was me misspeaking. So actually, you would have between building permit issuance and the 10 days following building permit issuance would be when those gusset plates would need to be repaired. But my comment still stands, have it done before the deadline, so that if there are a few that got missed, that you have time to fix them.
You know, the truss package passed inspection from the building department on the floor trusses and the roof trusses and all the gusset
Building, I
plates.
know what you're gonna say.
So-
I don't think I need to, the length of time this has sat without moving forward, every day it sits with those things exposed, the weather affects them.
No, sir, it wouldn't. I mean, if the structure sits like that, the structure can literally sit like that for 100 years without an issue, as it is standing today, on the bricks and on the entire structure.
Well, what I have is testimony that the gusset plates do not meet code. So whether they have fallen into disrepair over time, or if they weren't installed properly and missed by an inspector, we'll get it fixed now.
Okay.
Was there anything else? I sincerely appreciate what you've brought today. My reaction tends to be to the buts, because you'll say, yes, I'll do it, but then you want to tell me why you're not happy about it. I take no offense to that either. But
It just simply is what it is.
it is.
And from
I
all
do
aspects,
appreciate
and I understand all aspects as well.
working for it, because again, my concern is getting to a safe building. And it sounds like we're well on the way there. Was there anything else that either of you wanted to bring to my attention?
I don't believe, do you need to see the other sheet of that?
This is the second page of it.
Yeah. Installed functioning standpipe. My understanding from the conversation that we had with the fire marshal on the phone is as it's an ongoing build. But my understanding from the city's perspective on this entirety of this is to get the outside shell complete and looking presentable to the community, and that was the prior focus.
That may be, again, back to my comment, I am not a politician.
Okay.
That may be the political rumbling in the city. That's not my concern here. My concern is the safety of that building. So my concern is the insides of that building, the guts of the building.
Yes, and I keep repeating myself because that building is safer today than it has been for decades in this community from all aspects. And this is really starting to sound very not nice, because we're doing above and beyond to put a product for this community that it will not turn into blight again. And it has been blood, sweat, tears, and soul into all aspects of this. And everybody in this room knows this.
Absolutely not.
Yes, it has. And we have gone above and beyond to make sure that we do a good product. A product that will sustain the amount of time needed in order for this community to really develop properly. But the city keeps making decisions that are not really working and functioning properly for this entire community. And the community knows that. And I can actually run a petition on the entire community.
You're speaking politics now, and that's just
But that's what
simply not
drives. Unfortunately, that's what drives.
I'm here. That's not what I do. That's not my role.
I understand.
You don't talk politics to a judge because judges are apolitical, at least in theory.
But it's politics that brought us here to begin with.
No, it's the
It's okay. I know why we're here. I don't need anybody to explain to me what we're here on. I understand the case.
If I may add, I believe one of the very first points that was brought up in the very beginning was the window order, which you do have.
I was hoping to get to that at some point.
It was on my list.
So that would take, well, I guess what I'm going with that is, that would take care of the outside to a point, to where
That's a
everyone's
simple
happy.
question. Do you
But
have
then
proof that you ordered the windows?
I do.
Well, I wasn't finished,
Can
but
we see
then
the
the
proof
real,
that you ordered the windows?
Yes.
the real issue
Now?
is then inside for fire. Is, right? So,
It's that list.
No, that they're confusing the way the city has presented this case. And I want to make sure that this is clear. The measures that are on the screen are to deal with the immediate public health, safety, welfare issue that exists in that building. They are not designed for anything other than that. They are not designed, they are temporary measures to deal with that. The request that the city is asking for now is to get the building permit issued, to move this project forward, and then to complete the construction of this project, right? That's what we're asking for, because the problem started because the building permit was expired, right? These measures we've offered as a way to protect the building and protect the public, and to give them an opportunity to allow for the construction to pursue, to do it. They are not the resolution of the major problem with that building. They are a temporary fix to be able to address that. We certainly would also like to see the proof that they ordered the windows, because frankly, I personally, by the owner of the building, was promised almost 2 years ago that was told 2 years ago that those windows were ordered. So I'm not gonna testify about it, because that's not my role today. But I certainly would like to see it, to see if they've complied with the special magistrate order from last month.
We have. And you,
Well, can we see them, please?
yes, 1 second.
Now,
If everybody please, just address me moving
Yes.
forward in the hearing.
Yes, you requested that the windows for the first floor be ordered, and I told you that I would make sure that all floors would be ordered, and I ordered all of them. And I have a receipt that 50% deposit has been made. I have an ETA of 5/27 for their arrival, and the 50% deposit is upon arrival.
And do you have a copy of that receipt that you
Yes,
can?
I do. I have it via email. Can I email it, or can I show it to you? Because I forgot to print it prior to our meeting.
If you will email it to the clerk, if you can email it to the clerk first, and then you can show it to me. That way I'm sure the city has the record. And if you wouldn't mind,
And then you can click on the quote, and it shows.
Here's my email address.
so tell me where you want me to click.
Right here. So that's the order, those are all the specs of the windows, and at the bottom, it will tell you that down payment has been made, and
Counsel for the city, would you like to see?
yes?
so that's first, second, and third floor of the main structure. So, Your Honor, I have Can I email this afterwards?
If you actually email it now, that way I know it gets done.
Okay, 1 second, please. I just want to make sure, can you please verify that I typed the email address correctly?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I sent.
Thank you.
Can we go back into, so I think I have a clear understanding on
The
this.
temporary measures.
Yes. Can we discuss what the city is asking and the timeframes?
Yes, and that was the next place I was going to. If we could put the slide up with I think there were three items. Yes, that's it. Let me tell you where I am at on the September 6th. Given the history, I think building in an end date is appropriate, but I would include in that, in my thinking where I am right now, the ability for it to be brought before me if there were good cause for an extension. We have an active hurricane season, things like that, because there are things that happen in the world that can give good reasons for a job to slow down. If the job is simply my contractor didn't move as fast as I wish my contractor would have moved, that may not be a good reason to me, although you may still have the right to ask me. But I would build into, if I were to give a hard date for completion of project, I would build into that the ability to come before me and present good cause for that date to be moved back once you had time to be into the build process, in case things that were genuinely unforeseen and unpredictable were to occur to slow down that process. Or there could be issues that come up that the city is working with you on, and both parties might come to me and say, yes, we want to extend this out. So that hard date that they've asked for, I already have in my thinking that there would need to be some means for you to come before me again and say, can I move that back? Here are my reasons why.
I agree. I mean, that's an unreasonable date
Why is it unreasonable for completion?
because of how much it's left there and the nature of the building. You see, a lot of this goes without consideration, the actual structure and the difficulty it is in order to complete any aspect of this project on this structure. It's an existing building, and
How much time, how much time do you think is necessary for the completion of the work to be done to that building? The city, because we're talking 7 months the city has put out there.
yes, but that has the additions in the back to be built, that has the restaurant to be rebuilt. It needs fit out on the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, which is not gonna be easy on that building because it's a existing structure.
Don't tell me what needs to be done, tell me how much time you think you need to do
I
it.
think it needs 12 to 24 months to be really done properly. The roof on this project has taken over 2 years to complete. And we stand in a lawsuit for this roof in order to actually make sure that it's a good roof for this. Were you aware that we gained a CRA grant to do the facade on this building? And we started working on that facade, and we started working on that roof, and we've paid twice for a roof to be done, that we protected the grant and to make sure that it's done properly. And
That's all. I understand why you offer it, but none of it is relevant to what my role here is.
well, it becomes relevant to the,
When I talk about how much time does it take to get the building done, I mean how much time does it take to get the building done? I
That's-
don't care about the history. I just want to know a reasonable time to get the building done, and I hear 12 to 24 months. I'm inclined to say, okay, then let's set 12 months as the end date, again, with the open end that if there has been something unforeseen, something unpredictable, good cause for an extension to have the ability for the respondent or the city to ask for that date to be extended.
May we address that?
I will offer both parties the opportunity
May
to
you-
address
I
that.
think you're right in that timeframe, so, given the nature of how this is a different type of project, it's not necessarily a new build, whereas a new build, you probably could get that in 7 or 8 months. I think, given its existing nature, 12 to 24 is probably a very good estimate.
none of the aspects of this structure are an easy one to complete. This is why this structure has been a problem for this community for decades prior to this ownership.
But I will say a lot of the most challenging things the big hurdles have been tackled
Yes,
at great expense, but they are there, so.
You know, Your Honor,
So, let the city respond to, I have thrown out the number 12 months, which is where I'm leaning to giving you some more time. But I'm not willing to give 24 months. I am open to 12 months with the ability for you to show me good cause why that should be extended once you're deeper into that build process. And so if I could ask you to take 2 steps to the side, let me offer the microphone to the city to see what does the city have to say about 12 months.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. So back up to say, our recommendation that's on the screen today was because this project has been going on for a considerable amount of time.
I understand.
So to say it's a 24-month project is right, but this is.
But the
a
statute
6
requires me to give a reasonable
I got
time
it.
regardless of the history.
I got it, thank you. So I think the city can address the 12-month period and would be acceptable to that if we could get some sort of inclusion in an order that almost has milestones. The problem with this project from the very beginning is that even when it was mentioned, the CRA, even when we were working with trying to provide them financial assistance to get this project done, they refused to agree to milestones. So with that being said, I think we could agree with the 12 months period. We do that. They mentioned that the windows are supposed to be in May. That's when the ones they ordered. If maybe we could set a time frame to get the windows into that structure, that's a lot sooner than 12 months, so that we can see some sort of progress, at least on the exterior of the building. From the pictures we saw today, we agree with you, the interior is in difficult condition. And from I would agree with Mr. Davis's comments, it's going to take a lot of work to get that done. So I think if we could look at maybe a phasing of it.
Here's, I'm going to go a direction that neither party is going to like, I think. I hear you, but I think getting to a confident phasing program today is, I think, more than we can accomplish. I don't think we have the right brains at the table, frankly. Probably a contractor need to be involved in that conversation because I understand the respondent has to phase their own work so that the trades aren't stepping on each other. So I think the addition of 5 months is reasonable. I understand the history, but again, as I said, the statute requires me to give a reasonable time. I think that 12-month time frame is shorter than you want, but I think it's workable. I think it's a little bit longer than the city would like, but I did have concerns at 7 months for the extent of work, for it to be done well and done right, which everybody wants. I think a little bit more time on the hard completion date is helpful to the whole process, as well as the likelihood of the order being ultimately complied with. So that's the part that nobody's going to like. The burden I will offer to the parties, if either party wants to run with it, is respondent, if you would like more time, what I'm hearing from the city is, if you were to give the city a milestone plan that actually showed them and gave them a clicker to click through the process to make sure that things are happening on time, the city may be willing to work with you and give you a little bit more towards that 24 months that you're asking for that I'm not going to give today. So you might be able to achieve with the city the more time you're looking for by working more closely on phasing that construction so there are benchmarks they can point to and say, yes, it's moving along, we feel comfortable. Or better yet, what I could do today is I could put that into my order, and that I could provide that I will set it at 12 months, but if the parties want to come before me and offer a new phased plan that allows the respondent what the respondent wants, which is more time, and the city what the city wants, which is more certainty, I will absolutely amend my order to extend that time.
That's acceptable to the city.
it would have to be acceptable for us as well. Even though I think the suggestion that a city attorney brought is to focus this year on the exterior and the facade, it would be, I think it's very reasonable and understandable. It's important that the facade of this building gets done properly. It's a lime brick and a lime mortar, and it will take a lime plaster to complete that facade. But once that facade is complete, that building will look like that for hundreds of years. It's self-repairing. It's already started to self-repair the bricks. Lime functions differently when it comes to fire, when it comes to water, when it comes to air, to anything. It's a live product. So the thing that the city maybe is not really understanding is the extent that we have done in order to do a substantial, proper renovation to really bring this to life so that it actually functions and looks appropriately. So we want to create a facade, a unified facade from all aspects, and give this city and historic preservation something that they can really preserve for the future. This is why we're unifying the buildings in the back and the restaurant, and we're doing it all in BioLime. It never needs to be painted. It never needs anything. It will always look that same white color that it's looking right now. It's the natural color of lime. It's what buildings in Europe are. It's what Spain, Greece, all of the 1,000-year-old buildings, it's really what they're made of. Luckily, it happens that St. Cloud had a building that was made out of lime, brick, and mortar.
Let me make this comment, and I mean it sincerely. I appreciate your passion for the work. I appreciate your artistry in the work. And so I'm going to make a plea. Work with the city on time. Get the permit issued. Get progress moving. Meet those timelines so that you can engage in your artistry and passion. Because unfortunately, when things wind up before triers of fact, we're just hammers. We are problem solvers. We don't worry much about the artistry of something when we're looking at an unsafe building. So work with the city so that you can engage in your artistry. Because when things wind up in front of people like me, we see we have to. It's our role to see the world in black and white. We don't get to deal in gray because we have to enter an order at the end of the day.
I understand. And I am working with the city. And the city is not really, in all truth, the city is not really upset with me or my performance. The city is upset with the overall completion of the project. The way that they look at it, it should be completed.
Yes, and that's what I'm telling you.
Yes.
Is if you're before someone like me and say, I need more time so that I can engage in the art of it, somebody like me tends to say, nope, you've lost the opportunity for the art. Now just get it fixed. And I don't want you to have to sacrifice that. That's why I'm making the plea that I'm making.
I understand, but what I really want everybody to understand is that it makes a huge difference. You know, somebody can...
Again, now you're talking just things that are not persuasive, can't be persuasive to me. It's just not my role in this. That's politics speech. I'm the black and white speech.
Yes, but we tend to not be mindful of the decisions that we make and the things we do.
And this is what I just said. That's why I made the plea that I did.
Okay.
When you wind up in front of a magistrate, when you wind up in front of a judge, we don't make room for the art of the world. And I'm not saying that as a positive, I'm just saying it as a practical reality. So I'm telling you, get the timing issues resolved so that you have time to make it art. Because if you're in front of me or if you're in front of a judge, they're not going to care about the art. They're going to care about the safety of the building. That's just the role that we sit in, people who are sitting in this chair like me today.
Yes. Yes.
So that's my plea. So it sounds like we've worked through the issues. I'm going to ask you to send me your draft minutes as soon as you have them. So, and if I could get the PowerPoint presentation from the city, because I'm going to rely on both of those as I put together to make sure that I get this precise. But let me say verbally what that ruling is going to contain. And let's work through. Let's start on this slide. So everything on this slide will be as it has been requested by the city, with the exception of item C. There will be language added to that provides that the parties, either party or the parties jointly, may come before me and ask for an extension of that time. It will not be in the order, but I will restate again here, I encourage y'all to work together, and if you know, you can give the city a timeline that lets the city say, yes, we can work with that, that gets you more time, that is a win-win. And I would love to see that, but I know it's gonna take, you know, work to get there.
And Mr. Smith, but the date would change. You didn't mention that.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, thank you. That will be 1 year out, 12 months on C. So C would be 12 months, but with that extension language. Thank you. Any questions on this part of it from either party? If we could go to the first page of the temporary measures. So, on guard service, or the fire watch, really the fire watch item, it will be fire watched, but again, putting into the order the possibility that if you and the city agree on an alternative to fire watch, that is also appropriate, if approved by the city. Go ahead.
Then we leave both of those aspects to be in conjunction and work together with the fire department and the city.
It will be fire watch until there is an alternative. It will be fire watch, but giving you the ability to come to do an alternative arrangement if there's one that can be presented that will satisfy the NFPA section that is triggering this for the city. But the initial will be a fire watch or. So the or is what I'm giving, but the fire watch will be there until the or is satisfied.
So when would the fire watch start?
These temporary measures have to be in place 10 days after the building permit is issued.
By then, the or might be better known, the alternative means. So,
Was there a question? Was there any question about that, or I can move on?
They're all,
At this point, I'm not asking if you like it or not. I'm simply stating what my order is and making sure that there is an understanding of what will be in the written order.
yeah, there is a clear understanding, whether it's reasonable, just functioning and all, that's, unfortunately, it's the nature of where we are, and it's the exercise of power, and we have to conform to that because we need to, because it honestly, in all honesty, it's too much. It's too much. I have a friend that's a fire lieutenant, and I presented him that entire list without having any judgment, and his feedback was, somebody's mad at you. And it's the truth. It's really what it is. So we will work together, but ultimately we're trying to get to an end goal. And the more harder we make it for each other, the harder it is to reach that end goal. Until we start working together, it's just going to be a tearing apart. And we need some consideration, and this owner needs some consideration, because prior to him, this building was in much further dangerous as a structure on all aspects. And he's gone above and beyond.
But we all have to
so
deal
have-
with
so
the
have
property
all.
as it is today.
We are, but let's be reasonable. Let's be understanding.
We continue to go
I
through this.
understand.
But it's the truth of the matter. The truth is what it is.
As long as everybody understands what my order is, I've heard the arguments, and I'm rendering my order now. So I think we're on the same page there. The other item on this, again, it will not be in my written order. I will reference what is here. Add plywood across all elevator shaft openings. As you heard, that does not stop you from working on that elevator shaft. It is belt and suspenders so that they're covered while the work is ongoing. Can we move to the next page? Oop, went too far. Back one. There it is. There's a this is the second page of it, and the one bullet point that I believe is modified here through the hearing, what we've modified has been the bullet that says cover and protect gusset plates. That will be simply repair gusset plates. I don't think there were any other questions on any of these items from either party. Are there any outstanding questions on this page?
No, sir.
As to all of the temporary measures and going to one of respondents' points, I am going to put into the order, your date for completion before potential fines kick in would be March 6th. That is a Friday
Completion of this list.
of this list.
That's not.
I'm sorry, the permit is March 6th. 10 days from March 6th is the completion of this list, because some of these will be part of your building permit. So that actually makes it, what,
A Monday.
the 16th? Is that 10 days?
Yes.
So I am going to encourage you to have everything ready for inspection. I'm not gonna make it a mandate of the order, but have everything ready for inspection on the 12th or 13th at the latest. Call that inspection and let the city come in, and that way, if there are issues, simple fixes, yes, you missed that, no, you didn't, yeah, you got everything. You either can sleep easy that weekend, or you know what needs to be corrected. So I'll leave it to you on how much time you think you ought to give yourself, but I would strongly encourage you to get the city out there to perform a compliance inspection prior to that March 16th date. On the fines, can we go to the fines page? I know the city has asked for $1,000 a day. Administrative costs, I will award $533.03. I am going to change the date just because you have other things to be working on right now than that. So I will just tie that to the March 16th. So the payment of costs by March 16th. On fines, I want to break those down a little bit. On these temporary measures, so the building permit, so that the temporary measures, safety measures can be implemented, I will assess that $1,000 per day if my order is not complied with. This means that if you fail to get the building permit in hand by the time required, or you fail to complete the temporary mitigations by March 16th, that fine of $1,000 per day to be imposed for each day it remains in violation until brought in compliance. On the back end date, I'm going to reserve on the issue of fines. There's just a lot between now and February, whatever 12 months from today is. And if I were to see just a project that was being ignored and not moved, I might be inclined to impose significant fines. If I saw a project that had been working hard and had just missed a timeline, I would feel differently. So I'm going to reserve on the amount of potential fines for missing the 12-month completion deadline.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Could we request that we would request that the special magistrate, including there at least the option of the city to come back in front of you to address.
Up to the statutory maximum, and that is, and if I'm.
Talking about, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh.
During that, because the permit could be issued and the next milestone date is 12 months down the road. If there's no progress in the first 6 months, we'd like the opportunity to come back in front of the special magistrate to consider fines, in which case the respondent can show that there's been progress made.
A fine for what at that point?
Well, if I'm.
Fines accrue for failing to comply with my order. Unless and until I have an order that has benchmarks in it, the benchmark is 12 months.
Okay, all right, I understand, thank you.
To that point, though, and my suggestion would be is if we see project not moving for everybody's benefit, that as soon as there is any inkling that a project is not moving, and frankly, I will say the same thing to the respondent. If respondent believes that because of something going on with the city, and again, I cannot decide issues beyond what my role here is, which is to enforce code, but there are issues going on with the city that impair its ability to comply with my order, both parties are welcomed to make a request for a status hearing. And I think that is, for the city, I know the city is well accustomed to status hearings, but what that means is if something is going on and you feel like the city, something has happened in the city processes that has made it impossible or made it unlikely for you to be able to meet that deadline, and you want to come here and talk about it, it may be outside of the scope of what I can do. But if you make a request for a status hearing, Claudia will put it on our agenda and it will be heard here, the same as if the city put a request for a status hearing on the docket. And I make that invitation. I do not normally, I will say, let's have a status hearing on this, but I will just simply make the invitation to both parties that if there's a need for one, either party is welcome to request a status hearing in this case. Are there any issues I have not covered that either party needs me to address before we adjourn this item?
Not from the city.
The entire thing, it's an issue for me.
I understand that for what I can do and what I'm doing here today. Is there anything else that you need me to hear?
There is. Like, the reason why we're even here is because of the city's choices along all of this aspect and us being here when it comes to the expired permit, when it comes to all of this. And I have
But
proof.
here we are. Those are issues I cannot decide. But here we are with a plan to get to the finish line. Are there issues with that plan? Is there anything about that plan that I'm missing that you think I need to include in the order?
I think the plan,
I understand you think it's not fair.
and I think that the time period of the plan, it's too short. I think that maybe you can make the plan to a year for the entire outside to be finished, and then another year for the rest of the project to be finished. That would be more
Right
fair
now,
and reasonable.
I think 12 months is reasonable. It may be on the short end, it may be a speedy project. But for a project, and this is why I made the statements that I did, the work and the art, you want more time for the art.
I want more time to do it right. Because
Understood, but I want the work to be done.
Yes, but
So-
it matters on how the work is done. You know, if it wasn't for me, that roof would have been done. That roof would have been done 2 years ago. But how would it have been done? What would it have caused for
There's
the
nothing
building
you're going
and the
to say that is
community?
going to move me off of 12 months with the ability that for good cause to extend that date. I would highly encourage you to work with the city on a benchmark plan that lets them have the comfort level to give you more time to do it in the way you think it needs to be done.
To do it in the right way.
Like lawyers, put 5 lawyers in a room, you get 5 different opinions.
That's the,
Creative professionals are no different.
but
And I cannot decide that issue. I have decided the issue that I'm going to decide. So I'm not going to have any more conversation over 12 months or 24. It's 12 months for now. Work with the city, get the time you want. But get it by giving them benchmarks so they know when work will be completed, each stage along the line.
it's we all need to change. We all
Mr.
need
Smith,
to.
I respectfully ask that the meeting, your major ruling, this is just, we
is-
have other cases to get to.
And we do. I understand the frustration. I do. But what I can do here is what I can do here. I cannot, if I could, I would. I would fix all the issues in the world. I cannot. Right now, I'm dealing with a building that now has a plan to get safe and get finished.
Yes, and this is where we stay hung up, because th- there really isn't anything major that's unsafe for that building. And once it resumes
And I
construction,
disagree.
should we be left to a certain degree? And as a statutory evidence, it's actually much better now than it's ever
City,
been.
I know.
And that I can prove in many ways, in many pictures.
We've had the evidence, we've had the testimony, I've made my ruling. Are there any questions about my ruling?
What choice are we given?
That's a hypothetical. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Reduction of liens under 50,000, case number 2024-1439, Jacob Stokes Nuss, owner, location of violation 1414 Minnesota Avenue, St. Cloud, Florida.
Mr. Smith, this is a request for reduction of a lien. The lien exists for the, with regard to some construction work that was done on this property without a permit. The permit was ultimately obtained, however, the lien accrued to $23,500. After discussion with the city manager and agreement, the respondent has agreed to pay $4,700 as a reduction of this fine, with the stipulation to be paid within 30 days of your order. So we'd ask that the special magistrate approve the reduction as requested by the, as agreed to by the parties.
That request is approved as agreed by the parties under the terms agreed to by the parties.
Thank you.
Case number 2021-483, Ricardo Rodriguez Santiago, owner, Mayra Paola Cox Miranda, owner, location of violation 2730 Parkfield Road, St. Cloud, Florida.
Again, this is a case for requesting a reduction of an existing fine and lien on the property. This had to do with a fence being constructed without a permit. The permit was ultimately obtained, however, a fine accrued with administrative costs to $7,424.90. The parties, the city manager and the respondent have agreed that the fine could be reduced to $1,236.95, provided it's paid within 30 days of the special magistrate's order. And we'd ask that the special magistrate approve that reduction.
Yes, and it's approved on those terms.
And that's all we have.
Next scheduled meeting, March 18, 2026.
Anything else from the city?
No, sir. Thank you.
Clerk, anything?
No.
We are adjourned.